It's time to get the facts all election season long. We are fact-checking the claims made by major candidates on both sides of the aisle to make sure you have fact-based context for what these politicians are claiming when you head to the polls. Joining us once again is Lou Jacobson of PolitiFact. Lou, thanks for being here again. I want to chat with you today about what President Joe Biden said in a claim he's making when it comes to Social Security. We'll pull it up for viewers so they can see it. President Joe Biden saying Republicans intend to chop Social Security, saying, quote, their plan would cut Social Security benefits, going on to say, I thought Republicans agreed not to do this a couple of times, but they're back at it. Average benefit cut would be 13%, Biden says. Okay, so you and the PolitiFact team rated this mostly false, Lou, and I think this is a good one where we really break it down for viewers. So when it comes to this claim, where is the president getting this notion from that Republicans are saying they're going to cut it, and where is he coming up with this average benefit cut of 13% number?
Sure. So he is correct that there is a Republican plan out there from the House Republican Study Committee. It's a group of about 80% of the House Republicans are part of it. It's a conservative wing of the party. And they put out a proposal in June that supported cuts to beneficiaries by setting a higher retirement age and by changing some of the benefit formulas. So the president is right that there is a proposal floating out there, and it's backed by at least some in the GOP, to cut benefits. Now, it's something he didn't say, the president didn't say, is that it would not affect anybody who's currently receiving Social Security benefits or is getting to an age approaching where they would get Social Security benefits. But that would still be, 20, 30 years worth of age cohorts who could be affected if this plan were to be put into place.
And Lou, you point out in your fact check here that Biden's framing ignores that his own policy, which would be don't do anything, could lead to an even larger cut than this average benefit cut of 13%.
Yeah, I mean, he has pretty clearly said that his preferred policy, is not to do anything. And if that were to take place, the way Social Security is funded is you have basically payroll tax revenues going into a trust fund. That trust fund will last another 8, 9, 10 years, somewhere in that range. After that, they will have to, if nothing is done, cut benefits. So, it's not as if his plan is fiscal nirvana. It too faces its own long-term sustainability questions.
Lou Jacobson of PolitiFact, we always appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.